Found on the group's second album, 1984's Ride the Lightning, Metallica's song Fade to Black is held up by some as one of the band's best songs, but it also isn't without its detractors. Long before the band released their self-titled or The Black album in 1991, the song was used by some to accuse Metallica of selling out. It also soon caught the attention of rock critics who accused the band of promoting suicide, and would also prove to be a sonic farewell to one of the band's most beloved members. Today, let's take a look at the song Fade to Black. The story of Fade to Black begins in January of 1984. Metallica was on the road and scheduled to play a gig at a grimy Boston rock club named The Channel, which would be featured in the film Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Metallica would take to the stage at 5 p.m., and one of the more notable parts of that show was that they performed the song The Call of Cthulhu, which would appear on their next album, but it would be performed under the name When Hell Freezes Over. It was what happened following the gig that inspired the birth of Fade to Black. The band's manager, who had all their gear in a U-Haul truck, was stolen by thieves. It was estimated that the band had about $40,000 of equipment, including James Hetfield's favorite amp. According to guitarist Kirk Hammett, who told Rolling Stone, the only thing the thieves didn't make off with was the group's guitars. The band was scheduled to head over to Europe for the next leg of their tour within a month, and it would be label mates Anthrax who offered to lend the group their equipment. Their tour would end up resuming as planned. In a strange twist of fate, in 2017, a Metallica tribute band had all of their gear stolen, and when Metallica caught wind of the story, they offered to replace all of the equipment on their own dime. It was shortly after the theft of Metallica's gear that the band was staying at a friend's house who they named Metal Joe, where James Hetfield wrote the song Fade to Black. Drummer Lars Ulrich would admit that him and Hetfield, Metallica's principal songwriters, were obsessed with death at the time. Hetfield would discuss the song in an interview with Guitar World in 1991, revealing, "That song was a big step for us. It was pretty much our first ballad, so we knew it would freak people out. Recording that song, I learned how frustrating acoustic guitar can be. You could hear every squeak, so I had to be careful. I wrote the song at a friend's house in New Jersey. I was pretty depressed at the time because our gear had just been stolen, and we'd been thrown out of our manager's house for breaking shit and drinking his liquor cabinet dry. It's a suicide song, and we got a lot of flack for it, as if kids were killing themselves because of the song. But we also got hundreds of letters from kids telling us how they related to the song, and that it made them feel better." In a separate interview, Hetfield would tell Rolling Stone in 1993, "Fade to Black got good and bad responses. When the censorship thing started, that was one of the songs they tried to attack. These parents finding their kids dead in the garage with these lyrics sucking on an exhaust pipe. People tried to sue bands for their mistakes, but we got tons and tons of letters. We still do. They say, 'Fade to Black saved my life,' but no one wants to read that. It's too nice, too boring," he'd say. The 80s would see a rise in music censorship as the group the PMRC, or the Parents Music Resource Center, which included a former musician turned pastor named Jeff Ling, who held up Fade to Black as an example of metal music's worst offenders, as you can see here.
The album I'm holding up in front of you is by the band Metallica. It's on Elektra Asylum Records. A song on this album is called Fade to Black. I have lost the will to live. Simply nothing more to give. There is nothing more for me. I need the end to set me free. Death greets me warm. I will just say goodbye.
Lars Ulrich would tell Rolling Stone how the fan reaction to Fade to Black surprised him, saying, "There was an odd reaction to Fade to Black and to the variety of the record. It did surprise us a little bit, I guess. People started calling us sellouts and all that type of stuff. Some people were a little bewildered by the fact that there was a song that had acoustic guitars. That was kind of funny because every great Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Merciful Fate record, that was part of their arsenal too. The fact that we followed down that path surely couldn't have surprised anybody." In 1992, during a co-headlining tour with Guns N' Roses, a gig in Montreal during a performance of Fade to Black saw frontman James Hetfield injured in a pyrotechnics accident. And then 8 years later, Metallica appeared at the VH1 Music Awards, and it was at that show that fans voted for which song they wanted to see the band perform at the awards ceremony, and surprisingly, Fade to Black beat out Enter Sandman. Little did the fans know that it would be bassist Jason Newsted's final performance with the band. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll Stories. Take care.